Haiti is a bad example of using cash reparations to support the argument. I do like the fact that you brought up that this country has done things, and us getting the land does not erase the debt that we owe. But it goes back to my argument: the country, the federal government owns 28% of the land. I think it would be a lot easier for us to acquire the land to and do what we can with the land than having our hand out asking the federal government to cut us a check. The latest reparations bill that was introduced back in May of last year by Missouri Representative Ms. Bush asked for $14 trillion of reparations to be paid to descendants of slaves. It has not been any motion on that bill. That bill is not going anywhere. I think asking the federal government, and I like to keep this into the United States because, hey, this is where we live. Asking the federal government to cut us a check when they can't even decide what we're owed as far as the monetary value. I think giving us the land, and I keep going back to this point, giving us the land that they have access to, that is available to us, because they control 28% of the land in this country, is a lot easier of a sale as far as getting reparations, some form of reparations to us. Money is good. But like I said, as Black people, we generate close to $2 trillion a year as far as what we pump into the economy. I think if we're able to pump that into economies that we own, on the land that we own, in places, and recreate our own Black Wall Streets, our own institutions, and do all of that on land that we own and we control, goes a lot further to furthering our people and closing the wage gap between us and white America. I yield my time.
All right, man. This is Shakim. You are up, my friend.
Um,
You muted. There you go.
okay. All right, we're good. All right. So I heard, you say several times that the federal government controls 28% of the land. So we're going to talk about land for a second. And I want to go back to another historical event, which I think is significant. So we're going to talk about the $5 Indians. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the term $5 Indian was coined after the Dow Rolls were passed in Congress in 1893. And essentially what the Dow Rolls did was they made it so that you had to prove that you had Indian blood. And because you had Indian blood, then you could get land at a discount for $5. So $5 in 1893 would be about $500, 500 to $1,000 today. So you can imagine how many people would be able to completely change generational wealth with $5. And this provision was actually created for the civilized Indians, the Black Indians, the native people who were actually here in America before Columbus arrived. But that's not what actually happened. Again, white people, or people who classify themselves as white at the time, were able to bribe different institutions to say that they were part Indian. And based on the fact that these institutions alleged that these people were so-called Indians, then therefore they were entitled to the land that was set aside for us, the original Black Indians. So essentially, it was a fashionable thing to play Indian, and it was also profitable to do so, because when you had Indian blood, you were allowed to register on the Dow's rolls. And once you were enrolled on those Dow's rolls, you were fraudulently enrolled in tribes, and you were given benefits inherited by generations to come. Essentially, this all came down to a certificate of degree of Indian blood, right? And this is even still used today when people are using, these fraudulent ancestry DNA tests to say that they are the original people so they can have certain rights that we still don't have. And so even in the instance of the Dawes Rolls, where land was allocated for the original people, the system was cheated because it's all about the system that's in place. So whether we have been designated to receive cash from the federal government or land, what it comes down to at the end of the day is the federal government's willingness to actually uphold their end of the bargain. And so all of these people who are recently immigrated to the United States or descendants of slaveholders have been given land based on so-called Indian blood. Therefore, even the land that is presently owned by the federal government, you said 28%, it should be even more than that because the land that they have doesn't belong to those people. Now, with all of that being said, the is a great idea. Like I said, I'm in favor of land as a form of reparations, but it cannot be the only solution because, as I mentioned, you only touched on the United States of America. Black people, we are a global people. So we have to not only just think about us little, our little tribe here in the United States, we got to look at, the entire African diaspora. We have to look at what's happening in Haiti, Africa, the Caribbean, South America, because they do the same thing everywhere. So if it's happening over there in Haiti, you can bet your last dollar it's happening here in America. So all of that being said, land cannot erase the problem of debt. Even though the land may have resources that are valuable, the land still has to be valued, right? And then are people actually qualified to work on this land? Who's going to educate, millions of Black people who have been removed from, living in small rural areas for, a few decades now? How are these people going to maintain this land? How are these people going to profit off of this land? Who's to say that the government can't take the land back if property taxes aren't paid? That's another thing that happened after the Civil War is, the federal government came up with a law that said that Confederates had to pay a tax on their land to the Union. And when Confederates refused to pay that money, the federal government came in and swooped down and confiscated the land and redistributed to white women and former slave owners. So when you look at everything, even when you have land, you still need money. We've seen it happen with the Dawes Rolls. We've seen it happen with the Freedmen's Bureau. We've seen it happen in Haiti. We're seeing it happen right now in Zimbabwe. We're seeing it happen all over the African diaspora. So money is, an essential because even when we have land, we still have to generate a profit from such land. And with that, I yield my time.
All right, all right, all right, man. Shakim, salute, man. Drama, salute. Y'all make sure you hitting that like button for these brothers, man. We're gonna be going into this lightning round, which is gonna be my favorite round. Make sure you are hitting that Cash App $ Hood Conservative. The brothers are being paid for their time and effort tonight. So make sure you supporting. Hoodie is making sure that these brothers are paid for their time and effort tonight. Also, we have a winner's purse for the winner tonight. So shout out. And with that, I give it to Drama and Shakim in the lightning round, fellas. We got 25 minutes.
Oh, appreciate it, and I just want to say this. I'm appreciating this dialogue and this conversation. I do want to go back to something you just said, Shakim, in regards to who's going to teach and train our millions of people to do something with this land. You are aware that a lot of the descendants coming directly out of slavery were responsible for the early Black Wall Streets that we discussed early in this debate. So we're more than capable of doing that. We have the capacity to do that, and I think you saying that it comes off a bit short-sighted and thinking that we don't have the capabilities to, once we're given land, to be able to use that land and grow properly without outside help.
Okay. Well, I will say it's not really about our capacity. It has more so to do with the times that we live in today. So,
Hmm.
if we were talking about post Reconstruction and we were living at the turn of the 20th century, then I
Hmm.
would be for it because during that time, we did have most of the skills. We knew the land better than they did. So at that time, absolutely. However, now in 2024, I would say maybe 2 out of 5 Black people actually know how to sustain land. And I'm talking about regular gardening. I'm talking about understanding the science of light, the cycles of growth. Most of us go to the grocery store and don't even have community gardens in our neighborhoods the way they did, maybe 50 or 60 years ago. So